Well, look what I built today. Why don't you watch this video and watch me making this wonderful little device. A nice little bench power supply in my new workshop. Right then, let's go and see somewhere that I've been working on. Oh. Welcome to the new electronics shed. Incredibly warm due to the weather, but you see I've got a nice little workbench for electronics and a little sort of, I don't know, development bench, something like that you call it. It's just in the point at the moment where I've just brought everything in and dumped it, so it hasn't really been organised yet. You can never have enough soldering irons. So now we've got this shed, let's get back to some electronics videos. And I've got a little project I want to work on today. So this is my randomly searching through eBay and seeing things that look interesting and buying them pile. But one of these variable power supply unit modules. The instructions there. Let's say which one it is. Model DPS5005, so I think that means it goes to 50 volts, 5 amps. Yeah, there you are, 50 volts, 5 amps. So let's build a little unit for this. Now, bear with me. There we are. Now, I didn't intend this to actually be 50 volts, it's just that was the cheapest one online at the time, so let's get this. This was in the greenhouse previously, running the failed foggers. This is a 24 volt 10 amp power supply, so we'll take that out of there. What else do we want for it? Let's see if we've got some bits and bobs lying around in my scrap salvage bin. These are always fun to look through, aren't they? Yeah. Switch. What are we? 6 amp. Yeah, that'll be fine. Input. Yeah, that'll be good. Go for standard PC input. Okay. I think that's all we need. Power supply, input, switch, and the unit itself. No, we want some ports, don't we? So we need to be able to plug stuff in. So let's take a look. Yeah. Some little rubber feet for the bottom of it, and then I think that's about it really. I don't think I want anything else on there. Yeah, good. Right, let's get started. Right then, first things first. Sorry if you can hear the fan, but it's incredibly warm in here. So let's get this light on, see if it helps. There we go. So this is how I had it cooled in the greenhouse, because it got quite warm with this fan that was just sort of jury rigged onto the top. Now I have noticed when I just took this out that there's a small computer fan port in the actual unit. Obviously this will need some cooling going on, so we're going to need to make sure that it's not going to overheat and set fire to this shed. So let's take this cover off and have a quick look-see. So there's a small fan port there, but I'm wondering if that's 12 volts or 24 volts. So there's one easy way to find out. Right then, so we've got her wired in. Let's turn her on and have a look at what that's outputting. Being careful not to go onto the mains voltage. 24 volts. So we want a 24 volt fan, or I need to drop down the voltage. Now I think that, oh sorry about that, I think that if I have a look in my fan collection, I'm going to have a 24 volt here. 12, 12, this is famous last words, isn't it? 12, that's going to definitely be a 12, 12, come on, 12, that'll be a 12, this one, 12, come on, it's got to be a 24 volt here somewhere, 12, blimey Riley, could put one of these server fans in it, but I think that'll be a bit overkill. Right, bear with me, I'm going to have to route round my other selection, which is all here. Right then, 24 volt fan has been found. Also managed to find in my scrap wire collection, a header that actually jumps into there. Now it's a bit dusty, it's been taken out of something more than likely a server. Let's turn her on and see if she kicks in, or whether she lets out the magic black smoke. Fingers crossed. Dun 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 dun. Nothing. Okie dokie. Problem solved. Amateur mistake. The actual header that I found is the polarity is different, so red goes to black and black goes to red. So we switch her on, and we have a nice fan for cooling. Okay, right. No point in talking for the rest of it. Let's just get on with the build. Right then, so that's the case finished. So it's just made out of MDF, all these parts, sprayed chrome, and then I've just made the front panel out of a bit of 3mm ply. A few changes I made as I went along. I went for a bit of a beefier switch, so I found this one in my parts bin, 10 amp, so that should be much better, or 16 amp actually. And then I've also, you can see, done dual, so seems the space in this is going to be big enough. There's going to be one on the left and one on the right, so when I get me spending money next month, I'll buy another one and that'll go in the right hand side, so I can do dual different voltages at the same time. Shouldn't be a problem for this power supply because this is 5 amps and that's a 10 amp supply. Now what I've done with this is I've put some screws in the base that are normally used in computers, the standoff screws. Now they didn't quite fit in because it's quite cheap, so I've hot snotted them on as well, so they should be there. And the whole reason for that is just so that when this is on the base, it'll leave that gap between, so there's some airflow underneath, because the main heat sink is here, and that's one piece that goes round, so it'll help the heat dissipate. Then I've also gone for a double fan, so I found a 12 volt fan, a 24 volt fan, but I'm going to put in 2 12 volts, so there'll be 2 fans on the back. We'll put some chrome grills over the top as well, just for shits and giggles. And I can't decide whether to have one on pulling air in and one pushing it out, or whether both on push. We'll see, because I haven't built any air holes into this, so more than likely I'll do one on push, one on pull, so it'll get that air circulating around, so that heat will never be an issue. To power them, because I've only got the one 24 volt fan, I'm just going to use a step down converter to take that down to 24 volts down to 12, and I don't think it's not a high amp unit, this one, but it should be absolutely fine for it to run 2 fans off here. So yeah, let's get on with assembling it. Okay, all finished. So let's just unplug it a sec and have a look round. So I went for a push-pull fan, so we've got one pushing in, one pushing out, so that should circulate it around. Power supply's been jacked up, so it's raised up off the wood, so there's airflow underneath and all around, and the fans actually blow onto the part that's perforated, so it goes through. And then the actual power regulator module thing is mounted high enough that it's still getting plenty of airflow. You'll see some untidy wires here. That's all ready to go, so there's just 4 wires to screw in when the new unit comes, to put another one in the other side. And at the back there, just down there, if you can see, there is a regulator, so that's taking the 24 volts down to 12 volts for these. They're actually running a bit lower. There's a unforeseen benefit of this boost converter setup thing that I did, because now I can regulate the speed of the fans as well and control the sound. With the lid on, looks quite neat. You can see there, I'll show you some shots of it with the lid off, with the lid screwed on properly later after this. Some nice feet on the bottom, and at the back some grills so people can't stick their fingers in. Now let's plug her in and I'll show you quickly the fans and that benefit that I was saying with the actual regulator. So if we turn it on, let's take the mic off and you'll be able to hear the fans and how quick they go, so I can change the speed. Or decreasing. So I'm going to fiddle with that over the next couple of days and set it at a nice speed where it's not too loud but it still manages to regulate the temperature well. Put a bit of hot snot on the fans just to try and stop any wobbling, and apart from that, that's pretty much the end scene. So let's flip views and have a look from the front. Right, so here we are, all screwed on now. I'm surprised now, I mean that spray paint, the metallic spray paint was from the pound shop. I'm surprised how metallic it is. You can see reflections in it. So again, just to reiterate, there's going to be another one of these here. So I'm going to have two outputs. Now the actual power supply that's in there has got 4 outputs, so 4 24 volts. What I did as well was there's an adjustment screw in there. I've honked that up as high as possible. So I think it's getting about 26, 27 volts going to this unit now. So this can handle up to 50 volts. The reason I did that was because I want to have about 25 volts coming out of this, and the unit consumes a little bit, so you have to make sure the power going in is higher than the output you want. It doesn't boost it, it's not a boost converter. So let's turn her on. There we go. Now in here we can, bear with me, that's it, let's try and see on the screen as well. So you can see at the moment it's off because there's no voltage, no amps, no watts. The voltage input is 26.93 volts, and then I can go through and set each thing. So volts set, amps set, maximum volts, maximum shut off voltage, maximum amp voltage shut off, brightness of the LEDs, maximum wattage, etc, 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 and then master reset. So let's go back. There we are. Now the easiest way to change this, you can either go through set and then set the voltage that way, or you can, at the top there, you can see it's got V there and A there, so you can set volt, and you can see that other one's highlighted across, and you can change it up like so. You can see the volts climbs. You can do the same with the amps, so you can do it to a 2.100, 2.100, so each click moves it along one, so 200, 300, 400, 500, etc, etc. So 541, 541, turn that to 0, so 0.541 milliamps. So that's that. Now let's see it in action. So plug some banana plugs in. I'm going to get some decent ones of these because these are cheapies. Now this bulb here I've had since I was a child, and I remember it was one of the first things I ever tore down, had this in it, and I can't remember what the hell it was, but I've played with this bulb on and off for years. It's got to be at least 25 years, 30 years old now, since I opened whatever that was in and tore it down. And it's one of the only things I've got left from that original little tin of tear down stuff I had. So we've got something plugged in, so you can see it's registering. It's sending it 0.9 volts, 0.99 volts and 0.513 amps. So let's change the amps. Now another addition I put in here is a fuse. So this is a fuse on this output. Now at the moment it's got a 2.5 amp fuse in it because that's the only one I've got, so I'm going to order some more and I'm going to put 5 amp fuses in there. So I don't want to take this any more higher than 5 amps, so let's put it at 2 amps, 2.5 amps. There we go. Set, there we are, and it's at 1 volt or 0.99 volts. Now you can see, let's turn this, I've got a light on here illuminating it, let's turn that off, and let's turn this other one off so we can see any reaction to that bulb. So if I go in, voltage set, and let's take it up by 0.101. Now as we go across, let's try and frame it so you can see. You probably can't see, but it's starting to glow. 2 volts, 3, 5, you can see it's all jumping up and it's showing what it's pulling and the wattage. It's about a 20 watt bulb this, I bet. So let's go up to 12 volts because I think that's what this is more than likely going to be. And there we are. Happy days. You can see that's glowing nicely. Now let's just check and see if the multimeter, agrees with the where can I sit that? Sit it here. Now, let's see if this agrees with what that's reading. And that's saying 11.98, that's saying 11.87. So it's a little bit off. One of them's a bit skew with. I'm not sure if it's maybe a bit of a voltage drop from what's being drawn. Let's try unplugging it. Let's see what we register. So this is saying 12 volts. That's saying 12 volts floating up to 1. So yeah, there we go. Anyway, really happy with that. Cheers for watching. Bye.